Once in a while I dream. Once in a while I think of you. I reminisce on days gone by when you and I were new.
So let me show you a weird thing I have growing here in my greenhouse. It's a plant called Cyclanthera pedata. It's a herbaceous vine, also known as caigua. Believe me, the name doesn't get any better in Finnish. It's herkkuhyppykurkku, meaning yummy jumping cucumber. The Finnish term about jumping apparently refers to the fact that when this plant goes to seed, it has a mechanism to slingshot its seeds very far away. As for the yummy part, I have no opinion about that yet. I bought 5 seeds of this plant this spring and 2 of them sprouted. Now these 2 are growing in my greenhouse, but they haven't flowered yet, and it's already quite late in the summer. I read somewhere online that you might not want to plant it in your greenhouse because it will take over the entire space. Apparently in the jungle it can grow up to like 12 meters long. So what do? I'll just plant it in the greenhouse. But if you're like me and live in the Nordics and have a tropical plant from South America, you really have to keep it protected from cold nights as long as possible. But it's a nice experiment and it has a beautiful foliage. I just hope nobody thinks I'm growing something suspicious in my greenhouse, because I'm definitely not. Now let's see what's going on in my smaller greenhouse. Here in these smaller pots I have some patio tomatoes, or I guess I should say micro dwarf tomatoes. The variety is called Aztec and it produces small yellow cherry tomatoes. And back here I have a few sun gold tomatoes. They're my favorite variety. Very, very sweet tomatoes. They're the kind you just can't buy at the grocery store. Tomatoes are quite cheap in the summer, so I just wanted to grow something special as a treat rather than aim for a huge harvest. I just pruned a lot of the lower leaves to improve air circulation and help prevent fungal diseases. Now the plant can put more of its energy into ripening the actual tomatoes instead of maintaining all those leaves. Here's a small citrus tree that I bought this spring. It's called calamansi or calamondine. I'll overwinter it indoors. I have a cool room where I also overwinter my Japanese maple, so hopefully this tree will do well there too. I made my own potting mix for it using about half compost and half grit because citrus trees like well-drained soil. It's looking good so far and has put on a lot of new growth. Someone has been hiding behind a leaf. And another one. Oh, and look what we have here. These things just keep popping up every single day. But I'm not complaining. If I can't eat them all, I'm going to pickle them. They're really good. Pickled. Now is also a good time to start removing leaves that are looking bad. It directs more energy to the fruit and flowers. late summer really is the time of year when my heart just fills with gratitude. Whenever I can step outside and pick a few new potatoes, some zucchini, dill, and an onion straight from the garden, it makes all the hard work worthwhile. Creating a garden is a long process. It often takes years before your berry bushes and fruit trees start producing anything. So every cherry you get to pick and every new flavor you get to experience feels like a real reward. I have always admired traditional English gardens, and one thing I've noticed there that I hadn't really seen over here before is a fruit cage. It's basically a netted structure that keeps your fruit and berries safe from birds and other animals. I had an old gazebo frame that was already a bit rusty but still in one place, so I decided to turn it into a raspberry cage by adding some wooden supports and wire mesh. I used to have trouble growing raspberries because rabbits kept eating the canes every winter. If you're growing autumn raspberries, that fruit on this year's new growth, it's not really a problem, but we mostly grow summer raspberries, which produce fruit on last year's canes. So if the rabbits eat them over the winter, it's game over. Luckily, this has worked out really well, and I'm starting to get a nice harvest every year from my little raspberry room. I planted a Norwegian variety called Stiora, as well as Glen Ample, which I believe was developed in Scotland. Besides raspberries, another thing that made me really excited this year was checking on my sea buckthorns and suddenly finding all this fruit. Sea buckthorns are wind pollinated, and you need at least one male shrub for every 2 to 5 female shrubs. I have one male and 2 female shrubs that I planted a few years ago in a very open spot by my fence, just to make sure they get all the wind they need in early spring when they're flowering. In the wild, sea buckthorns are often found in coastal areas. They're very drought-tolerant plants, so it looks like I picked just the right spot for these 3. Normally, sea buckthorns have very sharp thorns that make harvesting them quite challenging, but these garden varieties have been bred to be thornless. They're incredibly healthy, but also very sour, so I'm planning to freeze them and just enjoy a few whenever I feel like I need a boost of vitamins during our long, dark winter. Hopefully, they'll remind me of these beautiful, sunny summer days. My runner beans have finally reached the top. This year I'm growing a variety called Sunset. I just love the peachy, almost pale salmon pink color of the flowers. And of course, both the pods and the beans themselves are edible. You need to pick the pods while they're still young because they become quite tough and a little fuzzy as they mature. Other than that, they're absolutely delicious. The flowers are edible too. Just make sure you're not allergic to pollen before eating them. I only once sowed auroch in my garden here, and it just keeps self-seeding everywhere each year, but I really don't mind because you can actually eat the leaves, and I think it's so decorative. The color of the leaves is so beautiful, and as you can see here, I have a lot of it growing. I only bought like 20 seeds, and now 5 years later they're still popping up everywhere. You can get a lot of seeds from them. As you can see, they're about to start blooming, so they're actually quite decorative when they form their seeds. I sometimes use them as fillers in my flower bouquets. I like the idea that my garden has two sides. The sunniest side is dedicated to the raised beds, where I'm able to grow vegetables for everyday use and, at least during the summer, enjoy a slightly more self-sufficient lifestyle. Then there's the other side, a semi-shaded edible forest garden where I have fruit trees growing and a small patch of woodland where blueberries and lingonberries grow naturally. Nothing suits you more in this sometimes quite dark world than to just follow what nature does. As I walk beneath these old pine trees that have stood here for longer than 2 human lifetimes, I feel like I've grown roots here too, deep into this soil, in this little piece of land that I call home. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. I'll see you again in my next video.